One of the most beautiful aspects of Jailbreak has always been its vehicle diversity. Last year, 12 new and very unique vehicles were added, and around 20 others were retuned, which completely shook up every vehicle ranking list. Last year, I made a 25 car comparison, and I feel that it's no longer accurate, so I've decided to do it again, but this time with 36 cars. This year's test features all 25 cars from last year, plus 11 more. These 11 include 6 added in the past year and 5 older vehicles that I had not yet included. Each vehicle will receive a final score based on 26 measures that come from 13 individual tests. Each test will be performed with all 36 vehicles side by side in alphabetical order. I know the individual clips are very small, so if you're watching on a smaller device and want to see any vehicles in more detail, there are links in the description to videos that show each of these groups of cars performing each test. I hope you all enjoy the mega comparison. First up is a full run on the drag strip. Here we measure launch, 0 to 150, 0 to 200, 0 to 250, and 0 to 300 miles per hour, as well as the total drag strip time. Here is the first part of the results. The vehicles are sorted by their launch speed, and these are the top 18. The Polaire had the fastest launch, reaching 85 miles per hour in 1 second, followed by the Torero, the Trailblazer, and the Storm Rider. Also shown are the 0 to 150 and 0 to 200 miles per hour lists, and the Roadster wins both. Cars like the Manta and Proto 8 do well in these tests. Here's the rest of the list. You will also see that each vehicle receives a score from 0 to 100 for every category, with 100 being the best and 0 being the worst. I will explain at the end of the comparison portion of the video how this scoring works in more detail. Now we have the second part of the results. The vehicles are sorted by their total time to complete the drag strip, which the Molten wins, followed closely by the Scorpion, the Concept, and the Javelin. Also shown are the 0 to 250 and 0 to 300 mile an hour times, which vehicles like the Concept and Scorpion did well in. Many vehicles did not reach 250 or 300 miles per hour in the run, so they get an NA. The vehicles that performed the best in all of these tests so far were the Concept, the Aperture, and the Javelin. Next we have a reverse test. This test measures the reverse 0 to 40, 0 to 65, and 0 to 80 miles per hour, and reverse top speed. Each clip fades out sometime after each vehicle reaches its top speed. Here are the results sorted by reverse top speed, which the Volt 4x4 wins by a considerable margin. The Manta, the Storm Rider, and the Successor do well in all of the reverse acceleration tests. Here are the rest of the results. The final drag strip test is a braking test. Each vehicle accelerates to 200 miles per hour, and timing starts once I start braking. Here, we can measure the 200 to 0 time and the 100 to 0 time in the same test. The Polaire, the Storm Rider, and the Successor sweep the top 3 in both categories. Each vehicle does about the same in each test. Something I don't think about a lot when I'm driving is the force you would experience when braking, which is around 16 Gs of acceleration when braking with the Polaire. That would be pretty ridiculous in the real world. There are a few more things that I didn't want to leave out, and those are the turning radius of the car, which is the primary contributor to the car's handling, the off-roading, and the seating capacity. Here the vehicles are ordered alphabetically. The turning radius values come from the Jailbreak wiki, and I gave each vehicle an off-roading score that's a multiple of 20. There's no great way to measure off-roading, so I gave each vehicle its score based on how well it clears hills and train tracks. Now it's time for the in-game tests. First is a drive from the prison through the small town. The Roadster wins, followed very closely by the Manta, and these two finish around half a second before the third place Proto. Next is a drive under the Crater City overpass. This test has very similar results, but this time the vehicles with slightly better handling perform better. The Roadster and Manta still win by a large margin. The third test is a drive from the prison to Rising City. This time, the Manta beats the Roadster, and the Concept comes in third place. Next is a drive from the jewelry store to the bank through the tunnel. This test is a quick one. The Roadster and the Manta sit atop the leaderboard, followed very closely by the Successor. The fifth test is a drive from the Rising City criminal base to the tomb. This is the first test to go off-road. We see a couple new names near the top here. The Successor and the Orion finish just one frame apart, and the Manta and the Roadster finish in third and fourth. The Parisian also does well in this test. Next is a drive down the mountain lookout. There's a lot of drifting here. The Roadster wins, and the MCL36 gets second. In general, the cars with better handling and a decent launch did very well. The seventh test is a drive from the Level 4 police base to the crime port. This is again a familiar top 5. The Concept and the Molten make it into the top 5 this time. The 8th test is a drive from behind the hype zone to the tomb, and this route goes through the river. Keep a close eye on the Polaire. This was by far the strangest top 5 to me. I had to do this test about 4 times with each car to get a good run, and some cars did consistently well. The Katana and the Parisian being in the top 5 kind of surprised me, and the Cobra comes in 6th. The penultimate test is a drive from the Crown Jewel to the Volcano base. We again see a familiar top 3, but the Polaire and the Katana do make it into the top 5. Cars with better braking did well because they could stop before the door, but some cars just did better running into the door. The final test is a drive from the Rising City Airport to Crater City. This is a long one. There were actually two measurements here. These are the times for the total run, which the Scorpion wins. The Javelin and the Torpedo are some other new names in the top 3, and the Concept, Molten, and Orion follow. Now, these are the times that each car took to get from the airport to the tunnel by the prison. This is a common distance that players drive, and it wasn't really represented anywhere else in the test, so I figured I would include it here. The Concept, Molten, and Orion placed top 3. Before I show the final scores, I want to talk a little bit about how the scoring works. Each test was given an importance value that decides how much the test contributes to the final score. If you add up all the importance values, their sum is 100. That means that, for example, the drag strip makes up 4% of the final score, and the handling makes up 5%, and so on. The most important category is the launch at 7%, but the two parts of test 10 add up to 8%. The scoring for each individual test also changed a little bit from last year. Instead of giving each vehicle a score based on the order in which they complete the test, I've switched to a system that offsets and scales the finishing times to the 0 to 100 range, and then subtracting each number from 100 reverses the scores to favor shorter times. For handling, seating capacity, and top speed scores, higher numbers are favored. Also, for the acceleration tests, if some vehicles do not reach that speed on the drag strip, then the slowest vehicle to reach that speed will maybe receive 30 points instead of 0, but it depends on how many vehicles finish the test. This scoring system is much more fair than last year's system, and it was the biggest contributor to the ranking changes this year. Now you will see each vehicle's final score. This is calculated by multiplying each test score by its importance value, then summing every resulting number for each vehicle. I then divide this number by 100 so that each vehicle's score is between 0 and 100. Here is the final list of scores. The list is very similar to last year, with the Successor and the Roadster taking the top 2 spots. The Roadster won the most tests, getting above 90 in all but 2 of the map tests. The Successor was just behind it most of the time, but the Successor pulled ahead in some of the longer tests. The result that surprised me the most was the Trailblazer, which got 13th. It got a buff sometime this past year, so I decided to include it, but I didn't think it would do so well. The best vehicle added in the past year was the Orion, which got 4th. If you want to see the full spreadsheet, which includes all 36 cars and their scores for each test, it's linked in the description. So the number crunching portion of this video is over, and the Successor won. Now I want to talk a little bit about why these results make sense. Let's take a look at the question that this video tries to answer. What is the best car in Jailbreak? I think this question has a little more meaning if we change one word. What is the best car for Jailbreak? Reaction speeds and maneuverability are very important for traveling short distances and escaping police officers, which is why launch is the most important measure in this test. While top speed is less important, it does still matter, which is why longer tests exist in the comparison but have lower importance values. The vehicles with high top speeds only do super well in tests where you have to drive most of the way across the map, and these vehicles typically lose a lot of speed while turning. It's very rare that speeds over 280 or 300 miles per hour matter, which is why cars like the Javelin with a high top speed but low launch and acceleration do worse than the Orion, which has a lower top speed but better launch and acceleration. All in all, this means that cars with great launch and acceleration do well, but cars like the Successor that sit right in the sweet spot in every category do the best. So that's it, my 2025 Mega Comparison. I do want to thank 2 people who made this video possible. Trix, who loaned me the Proto, the Shogun, and the Icebreaker to use for filming, and M320K, who gave me updates on vehicle tuning throughout the year and who was actually the inspiration for doing the comparison again this year. This video took a long time to make. It was about 8 hours of filming, 8 hours of timing, all 936 total measurements, and 10 more hours of writing and production to finish it off. There's a reason why I don't make this video too often. If you have any comments about anything throughout the video, then let me know down below. Also, feel free to make a copy of the spreadsheet and play with the importance values. That's really the only subjective part of this list, so your list might rank the cars differently. That's about all I have. I don't know if I'll make this test again next year with 49 cars. If I do make another mega comparison, I think I'll change the format slightly and maybe only include 20 or so cars, but I have a little while before I need to decide. Thanks for watching.